It's April 3rd, 2025 meeting of the Newmarket School Board. Let's start as we normally do with the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. So we'll move right along to public comment. Are there any members of the public who would like to comment?
I do have
Just
something
please
to say.
introduce yourself quickly.
Yes, I am Ingrid Alberg, and I live over in Braille Circle. And I want to ask, what's the plan if and when ICE decides to come to the schools? And I ask that because I'm a parent who has already exercised my citizen parental responsibility and requested extra copies of my daughter's birth certificate. And so I want to ask that. You may not have that answer right now, but I would also suggest that you remind parents that they can get copies of their birth certificates and their children's, and parents may want them next month too if they want to get their ID card so they can fly. So
Thank you.
anyway, I have a spare copy if you need it. But it's from the town hall or from the state.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you.
I mean, the board doesn't normally respond directly to questions, but I would quickly comment and say that the school district and the police department have had some conversations about exactly this topic, about, what the plan would be in the event that agents or purported agents of the federal government showed up engaging in some sort of immigration enforcement action. It's a lot that we can't possibly know about how that scenario would be, but that, everyone's aware that the possibility exists. I don't know if there's anything you'd like to add to that?
I look at it, as Dan said, we did meet with the Newmarket PD to kind of review our protocol. You may have seen some stories in the news within the last month or two, suggested protocols for school districts to adopt. The most important one is in the event that there were an ICE action, everybody needs to understand that nobody shares any information with ICE officials except me or the building principal after we consult with legal counsel. The stand we take as a school district is, first and foremost, we're going to protect the kids and families of our district to the extent that we can by the law. We are very fortunate that we have a Newmarket Police Department that feels very much the same way. And I've been assured that any action that ICE might take would be with the Newmarket PD being fully aware of it. So that is another layer but I think your recommendations for people to get their birth certificates and all of their in place is certainly good advice for anybody to make sure they have those documents, because we are sadly in a time when those kind of things matter.
I just ordered a few more copies for my daughters, and it took about 3 weeks to get here.
Thank you. Any other public comment while we're here?
I have correspondence, not.
Oh, correspondence, okay.
Well, I guess it'd be correspondence.
All right, so we'll close public comment at 5:19. I guess for the record, I'll say we opened it at 5:16. Thank you. Any board members receive any correspondence from the public?
I did speak with, I unfortunately didn't get her last name, Gail, who lives across the street from the elementary school. And she has expressed concerns numerous times to me on traffic going through the drop-off or the back loop. Vehicles tend to go an excessive speed, and she's interested in a speed limit sign. I did say that if we did get one, that wouldn't really be enforceable per se, and people probably would ignore it anyways. But I did have that conversation with her, so I wanted to bring it to the board.
And for the record, following up on that conversation, I did talk with Dave Riley. He is having communication with the police about what is possible.
Oh, great, thank you. I had another communication with her after that. We spoke, so yeah, thank you.
Thanks, Gary. Any other public correspondence? Todd, anything come in?
Nothing that I have received. No.
All right. Committee updates and board comments as well. So any committee meetings or
Sure.
Board comments?
Gary and I were just at the Teacher Growth and Evaluation Committee meeting on Tuesday, and we took a look at Demonstrated Success had a representative to show us some of the ins and outs of the tool that will be used by administrators and observers going into do mini observations on anybody under the teacher contract. And we just gave some feedback on things that were there and possibilities of things that would be changed. They're on their way. And the teachers that are interested, there were quite a few teachers interested in piloting it. So that's exciting too.
All right, thank you. Any other comments or committee updates? All right, moving along. Our student representative, Olivia, unfortunately isn't feeling well today, so she is not with us this evening. So we will move along to the superintendent's report, which
Actually, I do have, it's not a committee update, but a board comment, and I apologize if I'm stealing your thunder about the NHIAA athletic awards that happened whatever day we went up there, Wednesday or Tuesday, in Concord, up at the Capitol Center. It was great. There was 5 representatives from Newmarket. It's fantastic.
And no, you didn't steal my thunder. I suspect that would have been in Olivia's report.
Bring it on
Maybe
Olivia's behalf.
she'll get us on the 17th.
All right.
I do have, not necessarily, I guess it would be board comment. I did receive, I was not able to make the most recent Newmarket Elementary School PTA meeting, but I did get the meeting minutes, and they're actually starting to work with the rec to plan the backyard bash. So I know that if anybody's interested in volunteering or participating or the ins and outs of that, that would be a good, going to one of the upcoming PTA meetings would be a good idea. So they can always use.
Didn't we also talk about having a table there or something? Superintendent and dunking booth or something?
I remember it was the chair of the school board, I think was the one.
Yeah, no, but having a table there for,
Yeah, we have
we
talked about that. Yep.
yeah.
all right, yeah, let's not lose that idea. I think it's a good one. So, all right. Anything else before we roll along?
Finally,
to
Todd can have this.
all of Todd's stolen thunder.
No thunder stolen. I
Okay.
appreciate it. I did want to mention a couple of things that probably would have been in Olivia's report had she been here. For spring sports, I know there were, the Seacoast Online has done their players to watch for the upcoming spring season, and there were 4 softball players and 3 baseball players that were part of that. Softball, Hannah Chesley, Jaden Raja, Kara Sufakot, and Emma Serena. And on baseball, we had Nate Flewitt, Nat Napolitano, and John Schleider were all named players to watch in the spring baseball in softball season. So very, very exciting. And I will mention next weekend, Friday the 11th, Saturday the 12th, and Sunday the 13th, Little Shop of Horrors is happening here. There's a show 7 o'clock Friday night, 2 o'clock Saturday, 7 o'clock Saturday night, and I believe 2 o'clock Sunday. Correct? Yep. Yeah. And I'm looking at Jeff because I know his daughter's in the show. So.
I'll be there.
And I will definitely be there for at least one of the shows. So anyway, really good stuff. And obviously, though, as the board walked in, I'm sure you saw the rehearsal going on, so it's pretty nice performance. A couple of other things I wanted to mention. Yesterday, we had an early release day, and I met with the NTA staff, all of the staff covered by the NTA contract. We just really wanted to review the new contract and really, frankly, celebrate the great contract and kind of review what all the new stuff that's in the contract. And it was just a really very, very positive meeting. I tried to emphasize just how lucky we all are to work in Newmarket, because I do think, we'll talk about a few things in the agenda later on that will cause us to say, gee, I'm glad we're in Newmarket. But there's a lot of things going on in public education that are not heading in necessarily what I would consider to be the right direction. But at least here locally, we have a very supportive community, and it's something to really feel good about. So I hope that message resonated with the staff, and And frankly, there's a lot of really good provisions in the contract that I think are going to help raise the bar on everything. So very, very happy about that. So that was a very nice meeting. And one of the things I particularly liked about it is that the union leadership and I did it together. So it wasn't a Todd thing or a union thing. It was, we were both kind of presenting, this was a collaborative thing, and I hope that message resonated with people. So that's what, yesterday. And then I really wanted to just spend a couple of minutes giving some updates about some legislation, or a particular piece of legislation that I had been warning the board of from before. A piece of legislation called SB 297. That's a bill that it looks like it has real traction to pass. It's out of the Senate, and it looks like the House is supporting it. SB 297 is a bill to regulate pooled insurance coverage. And the reason that that's significant to Newmarket is we benefit tremendously from pooled medical insurance coverage. And I sat in on a webinar today with the CEO of Health Trust, who is sort of spearheading some dialogue across the state. Basically, what is happening is the legislation is trying to regulate the industry in a way that has potential to have significant negative consequences to public entities. Basically, what it boils down to is trying to create one set of rules for how you calculate your rates and how you mitigate risk. And unfortunately, what it has resulted in is, Health Trust, which is the largest insurer in the state, has said if this bill passes, they are pulling out of New Hampshire. And just to give you an idea what that would mean is 75% of all public employees in the state of New Hampshire would suddenly not have insurance. And that's about 50,000 people across the state. And then the other thing that has happened, the Secretary of State, who even before the law was proposed, I think has had concerns about pooled insurance coverage. He has started working with various insurance providers in the state, one of which happens to be the one that we have chosen to switch to. In fact, one of the results of negotiations was a switch to New Hampshire Interlocal Trust. But one of the things that is happening is that the law requires that you have a reserve fund, and none of the insurance providers in the state have the amount of money on hand as a reserve that would meet the requirements of the new law. And what they're basically saying is you have to recoup all of that in 1 year. In other words, it has to be done now, as opposed to, okay, we have a target of getting to a level of surplus or reserve. And so what if you check out the Conway Sun, which is a newspaper in the state up in Conway, they're local. They just got a notice from their insurance provider, which is also New Hampshire Interlocal Trust, and it's a 40% increase, which is significantly, like 30% more than they were quoted during budget development season. So needless to say, if this law passes, it has the capacity to really throw the pooled insurance market into chaos. And obviously, Newmarket will have to process that and figure out what it means to us. I have had conversations with both the unions to kind of let them know that we have a potential issue to resolve with insurance coverage. But the thing that I took away today when I did the webinar with Health Trust is this is legislation that literally came out of the blue. There was no discussion that this was coming. All of a sudden, at the very end of February, a bill after the deadline in the legislature was allowed to proceed. They had a public hearing the Tuesday after February vacation, knowing that the vast majority of schools were not around, and I will tell you that Janet and I submitted testimony, very concerned about it, but it's been rushed through, and there are real serious consequences that may come about. And like I say, it's probably going to result in us locally having to make some different decisions about insurance, which is very frustrating, given that obviously that was a big component of our negotiation with the teacher contract. So I just wanted to make you guys aware of it, and I guess my point would be it's not just Newmarket that's going to feel the pain on this. It is every pooled insurance entity, and that includes pretty much every municipality, every school district. Everyone is going to feel the pinch. And if what might happen happens, we might be looking at a monopoly for insurance coverage in the state of New Hampshire, and it leaves, no competition, and, public entities end up having to pay whatever's handed our way. I will tell you, up in Maine, they actually faced some similar situation, not because of legislative issues, but because they didn't have enough insurance providers in the state, and they have actually gone to a state-run health insurance program for all municipal and state employees, and that's how they've handled it. So, more to come, I guess.
For maybe Jeff too, could you explain a pooled?
Yeah, basically the way a pooled insurance is really tied to the Affordable Care Act. One of the things that happened prior to the Affordable Care Act is that, basically sick people ended up having to pay more than healthy people. And so what you ended up happening was, if you happened to be in an insurance group where you had more people who had needs, the rates you had went up. Pooled coverage puts multiple entities, multiple organizations into one group, and basically the idea of the pool is everyone in the pool is accepting the risk for everybody in the pool. Okay. So if there's an increased cost, it's understood that it's going to be absorbed by the pool, but by having a big enough pool and setting the rates appropriately on the front end, you have enough money there to be able to cover it. It's always understood, though, that if any point there was a dramatic need, like there was that suddenly the reserves were wiped out, that parts of the pool would have to make that up. But typically, they're set up in such a way that you can do it over multiple years. Like, for example, I'm going to use Health Trust as the example, since this is the seminar that I did today. They know their reserves are lower than they want, but it's a result of the fact that what happened was they had a very large surplus during the pandemic because people stopped going to the doctor, and it was natural. When you came out of the pandemic, people utilized the bejeebas out of the system, and so the reserves went away very fast. And so when they set rates in 2021, they didn't know what was going to happen in 2023 when all of a sudden utilization went way up. So what happened to them was their reserve funds diminished really fast. And so the rates they set for 2023 were too low. They know that, and they're adjusting for it, but they had a plan to recoup it over a 5 or 6 year period. What the law does, and this is where it's kind of cataclysmic to municipal and school district entities, is it says now you must recoup it all at once. And that's why, like I say, the Conway school system was just assessed a 40% increase in their insurance after they had already, just like we did, after they already went through budget development. They were given a price that said, here's what it is, and then all of a sudden they're told, well, actually you're going to have to come up with like $800,000 to $1 million more than we thought. And clearly that's not something that, it's not like in a school district you have all this extra money laying around to do that. You plan, you get a rate from the insurance company, you budget based upon what they tell you, and then you go forward from there. So pooled, it's a way to mitigate the costs so that it's borne by everybody in the pool, and that way nobody is driven into bankruptcy by a medical event.
Thank you.
Yep.
And so in the hypothetical situation that you're talking about where there ends up being only a single provider in the state, is that provider also a pool type organization, or is it a private health insurer?
Well, I'll just speak very frankly about what has happened. The legislation that has been crafted appears to have been written with preserving school care as the primary entity in the state, which is obviously that's where you are currently insured by. The rules that they made up are great for school care, but all the other entities are not benefiting from it. So what is happening is the legislation is crafted around supporting one way of doing it, which fits one company. It doesn't fit Health Trust, it doesn't fit New Hampshire Interlocal, or there's 2 or 3 other pooled coverers in the state as well.
And
So this is the state choosing which business wins.
Kind of, it does feel that way, but the result is it does seem like the methodology that Health Trust uses, as well as New Hampshire Interlocal Trust, is not being supported. Because they, basically the way Health Trust and the way New Hampshire Interlocal Trust have been able to keep their rates more reasonable is they haven't had as large of a surplus. What happens with, in fact, going back before pooled care, oftentimes insurance company would amass large amounts of money that was the insured's money, and every once in a while you'd get what they call the holiday, and they'd give some money back. But that's basically what is going to happen here, is that what will happen is the providers will have to amass a very substantial reserve fund, and if you exceed, right now the limits they're saying is between 12 and 16% of the total cost of the plan. They need to have that in a reserve in the event that, and that's a lot of money. Health Trust and New Hampshire Interlocal have been more around 5%. Now, they will freely tell you that they'd like to be higher than that, but they're trying to err. These are nonprofit organizations, by the way. They're trying to create a situation that it's affordable for public sector. So they're trying to do it slowly over time. And I think the law is, unfortunately, while better standards and better oversight is probably a good thing, to basically make one set of rules and say that they must go into effect as of July 1, 2025, it's going to have a big impact on the insurance industry in the state.
And school care is also a nonprofit entity, just
Yes,
with
they
a
are.
somewhat different operating philosophy
Yes,
than
they just,
the other two.
correct. They just have a different methodology, and I don't fault them for that methodology, but that doesn't make their methodology the only right way to do it. And for what it's worth, I mean, Health Trust is a company that provides all over the place. It's not just New Hampshire, and they have not seen this approach taken in any of the other states that they're dealing with.
Okay, I'm just trying to understand better who the principals are in this. And last question from me, at least. If this came to pass, and obviously it's going to be an enormous problem, is it an enormous problem for 1 year until these reserves are rebuilt at the other two entities, or do you imagine it being an enormous problem in perpetuity?
Well, I think it's an enormous problem in the first year, assuming that all the entities have the capacity to pay what they're saying. So to give you an example of what it would mean to us, for New Hampshire Interlocal Trust to get to a level where they have the sufficient reserves, it would increase our insurance by 32% for next year, which is about $650,000 more than we had planned for health insurance. And we are actually, because we would be new to the company, we actually got a deal. The people who were part of New Hampshire Interlocal prior also have the responsibility of making up the deficit from previous years in addition to building it up in the future. So they have an obligation to make up. So that's why Conway got a bill for 40% more and we got 32. So what if, after you make the adjustment, multiple entities survive? Because I think there's a question about
Right.
the liability of a company. Let's face it, we will not have the capacity to pay a $650,000 increased bill on insurance. We just can't do it. That's just not how we function. We ask the rate, we get a rate, and we budget for what they tell us, and that's the way it works. Can we we do have a trust fund for medical costs with about $125,000 in it. So certainly there's room to have a little bit of fluctuation, but not that. And my guess is what will happen is many municipalities and school districts will not pay them or will not be able to. And what may happen is multiple companies either pull out of the state or default or go bankrupt. And so what will potentially could be the landscape of New Hampshire health coverage is 2 years down the road, there's one player left standing, and it would probably be school care because their methodology matches what the legislation asks. And so that, to me, that's my biggest concern. No matter who we end up having as our insurer for next year, it's the years to follow. And, you know, if anybody knows anything about monopolies, I mean, let's face it, once there's only one game in town, they can pretty much call the shots, they can tell you what's covered, they can give you the rates, and you don't have any leverage. And I think that to me is the long-term concern, is you're driving, because Health Trust may or may not be the best company, but they're a very viable, long-standing, successful company. They have insured for 40 years in the state. They're very large. And they are saying, if this passes, we're leaving.
It's my insurance.
Yeah.
Yeah, again, there's no point in diving too deep into the hypotheticals here, but I just say, if push came to shove, I'd hate to be the Secretary of State and be the one in position of having to look at one of these companies and saying, I'm putting you out of business. I wouldn't want to be in the position that Bill Galvin will find himself in if this comes to pass. So, more to come at any rate. Thanks, Todd, for putting that happy shine on the rest of the meeting.
We'll get to talk about 675 later, so that's it.
Oh, good. Please, Joanna, come save us. Yes. Yes.
I just wanted to, first of all, thank you, Joanna, for coming in but Joanna has been, actually, Joanna and I go way back. We worked together in Oyster River for many years, so we've known each other a long time. She's been working on her CAGs, right?
It's a master's on educational leadership.
Okay.
So,
And so one of the things, she's done a lot of work around our vision for graduate, and so she has done a project on that, and she shared it with me, and I said, oh, come and show this to the board. It's pretty cool. So
yeah, it's one of my my projects. I have a few.
Including the Professional Growth and Evaluation Committee.
yes,
Yes.
she's got a lot of
I have
irons in the fire.
my toes dipped in a lot of things. Well, good evening. My name is Joanna House, and I am one of the Spanish teachers here at this school, Newmarket Junior Senior High School. I'm excited to share with you a video that highlights some of the incredible work our educators are doing to bring our vision of a graduate to life. You will hear from dedicated Newmarket educators articulate from their instructional practices, how their instructional practices support the competencies we all want our students to develop. We are preparing our students for success in this constantly changing world, from fostering innovative thinking and lifelong learning to promoting a healthy and balanced individual. I hope that this glimpse that you will get tonight into our educators' instructional practices inspires everyone here tonight and those of you at home to continue to support our vision of a graduate. Before watching the video, I really want to shout out some people. I want to thank Jay Fitzpatrick, our assistant principal. He was the one who encouraged me to go with a video in order to promote and engage people, to promote our vision of a graduate. Also, our principal, Andy Horman, for being super supportive with my projects and also very encouraging. Also, a huge thank to the educators who kindly agreed to be part of this video. And finally, thank you to my son, David Lopez, for letting me use his awesome music to enhance the video. Let's watch. If I'm ready, if you're ready, I'm ready. Okay.
Step around here just so I can see a little better.
As dedicated educators of the Newmarket School District,
We are connecting our educational strategies to our vision of a graduate. We are helping students become innovative thinkers, effective communicators, community participants, persons of character, lifelong learners, and healthy and balanced individuals.
My middle school STEAM classes are using innovative thinker and lifelong learner through learning about design thinking. And so we often try to empathize with people, to come up with the problem, how they're feeling, and we come up with solutions as to how to solve those problems. We iterate, we prototype, we test, and we do it all over again.
It takes a lot to bring a script to life on stage, both artistically, musically, and through acting talent. And so we really encourage students to be innovative thinkers.
As a special education teacher, we hold a lot of IEP meetings, and it's very important that my students' voices are heard. We've been encouraging them to communicate during their meetings by asking them lots of questions during the meeting time, and we've also been preparing beforehand, creating scripts and practicing.
In my biology classes, students design solutions to environmental problems. They have to budget their solution and communicate it to the class through a poster or a presentation. They are behind me. And in this way, they're also being community participants because they're thinking about how their actions can affect and improve the world around them.
In my classroom, the part of the vision of the graduate I find I most emphasize is being an active community participant. All of my bands are performance-based groups where we perform for our community and we build connections that way. However, on a day-to-day basis, I think that building connections, learning how to talk and communicate with others, and strengthen bonds is an incredibly important part of being a successful adult.
I'm really proud of the work that we did for our vision of a graduate, especially as a social studies teacher. I think our core tenets and our core values are exactly aligned with things that happen in our society. I share this with my students all the time. This is a basic American principle, right? You are free to choose all day long, but you are not free from the consequence of your choice. Okay? This is about being a person of integrity and a person of good character. Make the choices, that's your right, but please accept the consequences.
The library space embodies the lifelong learner because we have so many rich resources, both digital and physical, to help support our students. The materials help students explore, learn, tinker, and grow.
How we really utilize Vision of a Graduate in our athletic programs is healthy and balanced lifestyle. We continually talk with our student athletes about balancing their time in the classroom, their time outside of the classroom, as well as how to fuel their bodies for all the energy that they're expending during the day and then after school in their athletics.
And now we're going to find a home for it on our website, correct?
Yes.
Wonderful.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Do you have
Thank
any
you.
questions? I'd like to answer any questions if you have them.
No, I thought it was wonderful, though.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Thank you.
It was exciting.
speaks for itself really well.
I hope to engage more people and make other videos, so look out for more.
I do think, Joanna, that it is much more engaging and grabs your attention a little more than just seeing something in print or
Talking about it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's gonna. Those are the kinds of things I think draw people in to really understand what it is.
Thank you for that feedback.
Yeah.
That was the
I'm
hope.
glad
That
you
was the
put it
goal.
on. Yeah. I'm glad it'll be on the website because then we can share it further.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much. And when I make the next one, I hope to do better. I can see some things that I can improve on.
It's fantastic, and obviously part of the sound issue was the speakers in this room, so it'll be much easier on the ears on the website, I'm sure.
Just want to say one more thing before I leave. Through doing this project, researching it, speaking to people, getting to know them better, like some of the teachers I really had to go and seek out, and because I was trying to create a very diverse group, not just like social studies or sciences, and so I went out and sought out some of our educators, and I found through all of this that they have a lot to say, and this is just a fraction of what they do. And not only that, I had to cut a lot of what they said. So I just want you to know that our educators here do a lot, to the extent that I didn't even know, and I'm here all the time.
That's really cool to give them a voice.
The music was great.
Thank you, I will.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right, so next on the agenda, we have new board member orientation, which is not so much a specific action. We just, I think after the last meeting, for both of you, I'd sent out just a couple of links. I'm trying not to bombard you with 1,000 things at once, but just, to emphasize small things and keep the conversation going beyond, I feel like we did a pretty good job at the first meeting of helping to ease you into it, but I don't want you to now feel like, okay, you're here, there's the deep end of the pool, off you go. So again, I hope you found that both useful. If you had any reactions to it, I'd love if you could share them, or...
Todd had given me a lot prior to, but there was one, I can't remember which document it was, but got it all in my bag here. And it's good to know.
Yeah, no, I found it super useful. I mean, I like to consume information wherever I can, and that was a wealth of it, certainly.
Yeah. We'd be absolutely remiss if we didn't throw a quick shout out to Andrew Hamaker, who left the board a couple of years ago, but Andrew put a mountain of work into that, both the policy and the R document with the resources. So, thank you, Andrew. If you're watching, I hope you have something better to do than watch, but if you're watching, thank you so much.
Change the channel.
I could also I asked Ellen to add a link to the New Hampshire School Board Association does a webinar for new board members. It's a 2-hour webinar. There's a link there if you want to check it out. If you'd like to do it, just email Ellen and I'll have her sign you up. You can either do it live, which is, I believe it's April 10th is the actual session, but they also put it on their website so you can access it later on too and watch it.
Okay.
And I think, Lonnie, you did that last year, correct? Did you find it valuable?
Yes. I did it when I was on the board, and it was invaluable.
Yeah. Much more so to have it all just there and be able to click back and forth.
Yeah.
All right. Also, while we're on the topic of new board member and other board member things, I wanted to come back to the board committee assignments. Seems like a good place to wedge that into the agenda here. So, I mean, 2 we obviously took care of, chair and vice chair last time, as well as since the vice chair serves as the New Hampshire School Board Association delegate, that got taken care of. Thank you to everybody for sending me some of the things you were interested in serving in. I'll kind of go through these one by one, and if somebody had an interest, I'll indicate that, but if not, and the first one, unfortunately, on the list that I didn't get any interest in was being the budget committee representative. Jeff voiced an interest in being the alternate. Again, I've done it in the past. I have no objection to doing it again. However,
You've been going to the budget committee for like 6 years, 8 years, so you probably deserve a break.
All right. Does somebody else want to? I mean, I'm not kidding when I say it's a great opportunity for somebody to really learn the nuts and bolts of how finance and budgeting work for the town and for the school district. So,
yeah,
you'll promote yourself to primary rep. Okay.
Someone's going to have to backfill alternate now.
I could be alternate again.
All right. So we'll make Gary the alternate for budget. Yeah, Gary served as that last year. I'll shoot a note to the chair of the budget committee and copy you on it to introduce you and make sure Brian's aware of what we're doing. Policy Committee, I did that last year. I put my name down for it again. I think it's useful. Jeff had indicated an interest in doing it, and it probably would be good to have a new member start to learn what it's like to navigate all the policies we have.
That kind of interests me, if you don't want to do it, policy.
It's probably useful to have one board member with a little experience. I'm not
Okay,
wedded
yeah.
to this.
Well,
I mean, again, if people feel strongly, jump in. But
I didn't know if you still wanted to do it or not, that's why I said.
okay. So if I put Jeff and myself down, or the
Oh.
two of you want to thumb wrestle over it, or?
You,
All right, go ahead, put us down.
Well, we can always loop back once we figure out all the assignments.
Right,
Yeah.
yep.
Rebalance.
All right, so the representative for Seacoast School of Technology, Jeff had sent me some interest. Did you have interest in that one?
yeah, that's something that would be right up my alley. since,
Okay. You
Go
wanna-
for it.
All right.
Jeff's doing everything.
This is easy this year.
Yeah, that one, I think it's going to be somewhat more interesting this year than it's been in past years. Again, every school district that's a member of SST, as well as the school itself, is facing some similar challenges in terms of enrollment and budget, and I think the conversations will be really interesting this year, so.
And so is that a monthly meeting, or is that a quarterly, or?
It's probably about quarterly.
Okay.
Yeah, so there'll be, the first meeting is usually in September, then, every other month. And then in the spring, like coming up, there's a meeting in May, plus they call it the certificating ceremony.
Oh,
which is
sure.
sort of the graduation kind of thing, which you attend.
Yeah, and you'll have Todd by your side
Yeah,
for
so
those
we-
as well,
yeah.
so.
Yeah.
Yep, we'll go together.
Yeah, it's.
Now, does that have anything to do with VLAX?
No,
No.
no.
It's
No.
the same building?
Yeah, it's in
Okay,
the Tuck building
yeah,
over there,
yeah.
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 District Staff Committee Representative Lonnie raised her hand for that one, as she's done it in the past.
Oh, PD? PD?
Yeah, PD.
Okay. Yep.
Sorry, I made this list up from a PDF, so I might have missed some things in the course of doing it. Anybody else feel strongly about that one? Going once, going twice? All right. So the negotiating team, the support staff, AKA the paras, have a contract coming up this year. This is going to be one of the more intensive ones. Again, Lonnie raised her hand for that one. Thank you.
You wanted to come back after the...
Yeah.
In this
Glutton for
case,
punishment.
So I've done in the past, so if we wanted to get a new member and I could do it, or, I mean, you already have a few, but it's up to you. I mean, I'm happy to not do it.
I think it would be interesting. I've never been I've been in the teacher realm and now negotiations, but obviously
2 years in a row,
paraprofessionals
you're-
is a different.
Yeah, it's fine with me. I mean,
okay. And if one of the new members wanted to be on that, it's going to be useful to know. These things, we're trying to push the cycle out a little longer, but still, to have, I guess I would feel bad for a potential future board if we got to a point where nobody on the board had been involved in the negotiations, so.
You can put me as an alternate, but I'm not sure how good I'd be at it.
It's a team effort, you know.
Team effort,
it's-
yeah.
So basically, the
Sound like
negotiating
Jeff?
team consists
Yeah,
of myself,
yeah, sure.
Dan Mellon, 2 board members, and then usually, like for the paras, it would probably be Erica McNeil, our Director of Student Services. So it's a team of 5, and the board members on it represent the interests of the board as we discuss negotiations.
All right. Capital Improvement Program Committee,
yeah, I'm happy to do that.
thank you.
I should do something this year.
You're going to do plenty.
Thought you were going to be in the dunk tank. No.
Yeah.
So manifest signers, again, Jeff raised his hand. I'm usually around. Gary's usually around.
I work from home and
Yeah,
I'm
miles on
usually
the road,
around.
so yeah.
yeah. So we'll pencil in Jeff and Gary. The reality is, so the way this plays out, on the weeks we don't have a board meeting, somebody still needs to come in and sign the manifest so we can pay our bills. Usually Teresa Marvin, who works in the finance office, will send out an email letting us know what time they're going to be ready. And just there's no specific time. You just drop by town hall at some point jot your signature on it, and we're good to go.
Okay.
It's never a problem to have more than 2 signatures. is that
Correct.
That's
Yep.
just one I can never do. Unless it's school vacation week
Yeah.
or something.
I think I drive by like 4 times a day, so
Okay.
it's pretty easy for me.
Always pop in then. Board negotiation team representatives for the Teachers Association. So we don't have active we have the contract here actually tonight. We all just need to sign quickly, but for any follow-up issues that come up,
Yeah, I'm happy to do that.
you want to do it too. I put my name down
Sure.
as well. All right.
And I would just mention that the topic I was talking about earlier, 297, might result in some conversation with the
That was my concern. I almost mentioned that, but I didn't.
The Town Master Plan Committee, Kathy expressed.
Yeah, now, what does that involve?
So the master plan is a document that we are required by law to have, although candidly, it's a good idea to have one no matter what the law says. It's integral to our ability to do things like charge impact fees to developers. We're required to update it, I think, every 10 years. So there's a fellow who, the town planner, Bart McDonough, rides shotgun on the whole process. And the town council has a representative, the school board has a representative. Are there at-large on the master plan committee, or?
It's a big group, so to be honest, I don't know, beyond our having a representative, I'm not sure how all the other members were selected. They are quite a ways down the road of developing it, so I'm assuming at some point during the next year, it will be wrapped up.
I mean, I've never seen it on the ballot in March, so I don't think there are at-large members. It's just, people from the different town committees. Again, I'm not, to the best of my knowledge, this is not a heavy time commitment, so.
Sure.
All right,
I can
Kathy on
learn
that.
about Newmarket that way.
Yep. One we added to the list last time was teacher growth and evaluation, which is Gary and Lonnie are currently doing that.
It's close to wrapping up, so it probably makes sense for us to just continue, but I wanted to formally make sure we discussed it.
Yeah, that was one of those ones I felt like this school year, it probably would be less confusing for us to finish it up.
If the continuity is helpful,
I'm happy
good with
to go with somebody for the first few next school year, I should say, and then kind of like release my hold on it, because that one is monthly.
Okay. Well, thank you. Thank you
Is
both
it monthly?
Not-
Well, right now, because they're doing a lot. I don't
Yeah,
know.
it's not necessarily monthly, but yeah.
Thank you both for doing that.
I mean, it should be a lot less work next year.
Yeah.
So here's where my note-taking falls down. I could have sworn we added 3 things to the bottom of the list, but I could only come up
Health
with
benefits.
the one. Health benefits. There you go.
Health.
That'll be important.
Boy, that's about to become a
Yeah, no one wants to go on
big
that.
deal.
I'm trying to think, there are 4 standing committees that are created by the new teacher contract.
Yeah.
And I'm trying to remember which ones require board participation. I don't believe there's a board member on the handbook committee, is there?
No, I don't think so.
No. So then there's the insurance committee, there's the professional growth
Development
committee we
committee.
talked about, and then the health, the health benefits, yeah, that's it. That's all.
And health benefits and insurance are 2 separate things, or that's?
No, it's one, it's gonna
Okay.
be one group that basically the purpose of it is to monitor our plan, whatever it ends up being, and maximize utilization.
Yeah, I feel like everybody else is quick to load, so I'm happy to do that.
Thank you, Gary. Anybody want to work with, do we need 2 board members or just one?
Just one, it was just Amy, right?
Yeah, it was just.
Okay. All right, so I'm going to read off the roster, and if you hear anything that sounds at odds with what you're thinking, raise your hand. So Chair, myself, Vice Chair, Lonnie, Budget Committee, Jeff, Budget Committee Alternate, Gary, Policy, myself and Jeff, Seacoast School of Technology, Kathy, Professional District Staff Development Committee, or parenthetically PD, Lonnie, New Hampshire School Board Association, Lonnie and, or I'm sorry, no, that's not right. New Hampshire School Board Association delegate. I put 2 things on the same row before we got into this. So Lonnie is the delegate for New Hampshire School Board Association.
Yep.
Lonnie and Kathy are doing negotiations with the support staff. That's how I got messed up. Sorry about that.
Lonnie's 3 in a row.
Yeah. CIP, Gary. Manifest signers, again, we've penciled in Jeff and Gary. There's like 4 of us who can actually do that. Board negotiation team for the Teachers Association, Gary and myself. Master plan, Kathy. Teacher growth and evaluation, Lonnie and Gary. Health benefits, insurance, Gary. All right. Thank you, everybody. Next up on the hit parade, we have the man with the plan, the superintendent's proposal for the last day of school.
I hinted at it last time, and you twisted my arm, and I revealed my plan, but I'm following through. So I am recommending Friday, June 13th as the last day of school, just to kind of give you the full overview. State minimum standards allows districts to meet the minimum standard in one of 2 ways. You can have a straight 180-day school year, which is more limiting because you can't, there's no way to shorten 180 days. They are what they are. Or you can do hours. Newmarket has, at least in my time here, done the hours calculation. And I think actually it started during the pandemic because I think there was a lot of challenges to meeting the 180-day level. Basically, the way the standards work is at the elementary level, you have to have, for the year, have to have 945 hours of instructional time. At the secondary level, you have to have 990 hours of instructional time, and seniors have to have 960 hours of instructional time before they graduate. And by state law, you have, when you plan your calendar, which we do, you plan your calendar to also include 60 hours of potential makeup time. So basically, you have to think about, if you had, like 20 years ago, there was the floods that we ended up having school called off for like literally a week. You have to be able to absorb that and be able to make adjustments. So we build our calendar with all that in mind. So this year we've actually had a pretty, keep my fingers crossed because I'm going to say this out loud, I'm going to get a snowstorm next week, but we've had a pretty mild winter. We have had one day canceled because of snow and
excuse me,
3 late starts because of weather. So basically we've lost a total of 12 hours of instruction. Our original planned calendar had 1,018 hours at the elementary school, 1,062 hours at the junior senior high school, and we also put 5 snow days on the calendar, so we could go as late as June 23rd. I would be the least popular superintendent in the region if I said we're going to go till June 23rd, but let's keep that to ourselves. When all is said and done, once you adjust for the time we've lost due to weather cancellations, by following through on the June 13th end date, that would be the 177th instructional day, and our calendar was planned around 178 instructional days, by the way. So it's basically not making up one instructional day. It brings us, at the elementary school, we would have 1,006 hours, which is 61 hours above minimum standard. At the high school, middle school, it would be 1,050, which is 60 hours above standard. And seniors would have 1,020 hours of instructional time, which is 60 hours above the standard. So with that, I would recommend June 13th. The way that we would, obviously, the teachers would still be obligated to the 186 days the contract requires. And one of the provisions of the new contract is to give 1 day to do all the mandatory virtual trainings. And we have just adopted a platform called ArcsEd, which has all of the mandatory trainings on it. About 6 hours worth of mandatory trainings, the policy reviews and all of that kind of stuff. We would basically tell our teachers for that 1 additional day, we would ask them between now and the start of school that they do those 6 hours, just get them done. And by the way, we do have, with ArcsEd, we know when they have them done. In fact, ArcsEd is wonderful. It sends emails to teachers that you're 20% done, you're 30% done, you're 40% done. So they can't not know that they have to do them. So anyway, that would be my recommendation. So what it would mean is last day for kids, Friday the 13th. Teachers would come back for 1 in-person workshop day on Monday the 16th, and then they would have 1 day of virtual training. that's what I would recommend.
All right, we'll vote on that at the end. Any questions, discussion?
When would graduation be?
Graduation is set, we set that very early on. That was for the Friday before, so it's Friday,
Okay.
June 6th.
Okay, thank you.
And I'm trying to remember the exact, I want to say 5:30. Do you remember the exact time?
I thought it's 6 o'clock.
6 o'clock, okay. Well,
6,
Gary's been to more of them than I have, so I'm going to say 6 o'clock. So yeah, Friday, June 6th is graduation.
Just as a former school summer vacation enjoyer, I guess, that a question I have is that sounds like it's about 2 weeks longer than the minimum standard. Do we need to keep them that extra 2 weeks?
Well, here's what I would say, and you're absolutely right. One of the things that when the law changed to allow for the meeting the standard through hours, it allows the local school board to make that decision. I'm a firm believer that, minimum standards, we don't want to just do the minimum, we want to make sure we maximize. And so I think curriculum and instruction are planned to end right around that time. A day here or there does not throw things off. To reduce by, potentially 10 days would actually have an impact on curriculum at this point. So our program is planned around roughly the 178 days. To go much less than that, unless it's an emergency, I wouldn't recommend it. Although you're absolutely right, we do have that flexibility if that's something that we as a community wanted to do.
Sure. It does make sense. Obviously, this year is coming to a close rather quickly. But I would wonder if planning in future years to have, even if it's 1 week shorter, right? Mm-hmm. It's another week of summer. It's another week that the kid gets to go out and be a kid, enjoy the outdoors and stuff like that. They're already itching to get out.
I know there was some push a few years back to kind of pass a state law that would say you can't start school until after Labor Day to kind of guarantee the full length of summer. And certainly we can have that conversation for future calendar development. I would point out one of the things to keep in mind is our calendar, while it is Newmarket's calendar, we are required by law to work to match the SST calendar, so because that's our regional technical center. So while we can make decisions locally, we got to keep in mind that it's got to mesh with what SSTs does, so we kind of have to coordinate with 6 school systems to build it. But there's no question there is more flexibility than the district has historically taken. I think we need to be, the conversation needs to be first and foremost what's in the best interest of the students and educationally first, and if there's things that we could do. I know at the elementary level, I know I've had some conversation with Sean about gee, it would actually be nicer to have a longer academic day, and can you have a longer day and fewer of them? And maybe that's a conversation that we could engage in moving forward.
Okay.
Yep.
Other questions? All right, so for everyone watching at home, do not put your snow blower away yet. Keep your snow shovels in the garage. Don't throw out those last 2 cups of rock salt in the bottom of the bag. Everybody just stay the course. I promise. I can't promise that. Next topic, school funding in New Hampshire. Todd, what do you have for us?
Well, there's multiple pieces here. Actually, it is purely coincidental, but I think they're very closely tied. I mean, I know, Dan, you had received, and actually, I'm assuming that other members of the board, at least the ones who were previously on the board, received this communication from the Dover school system, looking to get Newmarket to join, to sign on to a letter about fair funding of public schools. And certainly that letter is general to all of the funding questions that exist in the world. But basically trying to get as many school boards to sign on to really call upon the state legislature to fully fund or fairly fund public schools. So that sort of was one of the conversations, which I think is very relevant. But as I mentioned to you guys last week, there's also a bill particularly about a particular funding bill that is very concerning to me. In fact, Kathy and I were just talking before the meeting. It sounds like it's made its way out of the House and it's heading for the Senate. I'm referring to HB 675, and basically that is what I would call it's the tax cap bill. Historically, what has been the case is individual school districts can adopt a tax cap if they choose to do so, but there's a process that you go through to adopt. And one of the things that I think people who want to see spending in schools reduced is seeing is most towns are making a decision not to adopt a spending cap because it's basically tying your hands to be able to make decisions for yourself locally. So the 675 is a bill that is trying to make a cap that would be for the entire state. So basically what it would do is it would set, they would use the consumer price index, a 5-year average, and whatever that 5-year average is what your cap would be in a given year. And then from that point forward, you can only go up by whatever that amount is. And just to give you an idea, there's some documents that I've included in here that I would encourage people to take a look at and read. They were actually being passed around by the Goffstown school system and their business administrator. But just to give us some idea of what the passage of 675 would mean to local school districts. And so basically, the biggest thing to keep in mind is it's taking away local control. It is basically saying that regardless of what the school board deems to be the appropriate budget to recommend, you only have authority to a certain point. And then if the board wants to recommend something more than the tax cap, it requires the town to vote at a 2/3 majority to support overriding the tax cap. So to me, that's the concern, is local control is either a thing or it's not. And to be honest, everything else, the state says, hey, we're not paying for it, so you're on your own with that one. So it's kind of remarkable to me that on the one hand, you have adequacy aid being set at an amount that is ridiculously low. In fact, this bill, 675, originally was created to raise adequacy aid. It was supposed to increase adequacy aid to the amount that the Conval lawsuit judge said. Yeah, it was going to be $7,300. But the committee actually pared it back down to the original number, which is $4,100. So they're saying, we're going to give you $4,100 per kid, which is not adequate, but at the same time, we're going to tell you you can't spend your own money to make up the difference. And so it could be significant to Newmarket. I think I kind of mentioned this last time, but what it would mean, I just went back and looked at the last 2 budgets and what it would mean to us. For this year, it's about $500,000 more. No, I'm sorry. For this year, it's $375,000 more than we have already budgeted. And next year, it would have been, oh, sorry, got that backwards. I got my years. I'm confused about the current year we're in. We would have had to take $500,000 more out. For next year, because we did so much trimming to get us to where we were, we would have to only take out another $375,000. But the bottom line is, we would be in a very different situation than we are now if that had been the case. So I wanted to kind of put both of these in front of you for your conversation because you're the elected people here.
And on that note, conversation, Kathy?
Well, I've been very involved in listening to this. I have been born and raised in Franklin, one of the first communities that had a tax cap back in 1989. And 40 years of living under that has pretty much decimated the town, the city, the schools, and the municipality. So having lived under it and seeing it was a city council that could override it, but they get so wedded to it that they're afraid to now. But taxes haven't gone down. Services have. And in listening to the Finance Committee testimony, Chairman Weiler from Wyndham said he feels that this is the most important bill out of the session, and it could even be attached to the budget to be passed. So it's something that we, in my initial voicing of opinions here on the school board, it's something that, while theoretically you think that it's going to be okay, you don't really have control over your budget then if you have a tax cap, because you're looking at what you have to take out instead of what you can do to grow. But the testimony during the hearing on this was pretty remarkable. Yeah. I didn't go away with a smile on my face.
If I recall correctly, the public, so the state legislature has the capability for people to remotely submit
Right.
either just an opinion or,
Yes.
or an opinion plus testimony. I think the remote opinion was overwhelmingly opposed
Right,
to this.
as well as town meetings when this was put before them. If anybody knows the Kearsarge case, how they showed up, people came out. And if you know the Kearsarge, I mean, that's rural districts, and they have a pretty high cost per pupil, and they showed up that Saturday morning, you know, they couldn't get off the highway to get to the school. 1,500 people were against it. And most other school districts that had that posed on their, in front of them during their school meetings, I don't think, maybe one or two passed, agreed to it, thought that's a good idea, but most of them.
I think there were at least 7 that rejected it this time around.
Yeah, there were quite a few. And so it's not a popular thing in New Hampshire. And again, I think I go back to what happened in Franklin 40 years ago, and if there's any community you'd like to go through to see what could happen, it's really kind of sad because it was a great little community.
Thank you. Other comments, questions?
I did see, looking at the funding letter that has all the school board members from different towns and some other town officials, how would one go about like adding a signature to this, or do they want us to do something separate? I'm not sure.
For the fair school funding one, I think they're specifically asking, probably the board chair would be signing on. It would require probably, as a board, you authorizing Dan to sign.
Okay.
And he would obviously coordinate with, I forget the person's name from Dover who's leading the charge.
Michaela?
Michaela Demeter.
Okay.
Well, it's odd the way it's done, because some boards seems like the entire board, other ones it's the chair and vice chair. Another board it's a member and the vice chair. So,
Right.
I mean, I certainly would be in favor of signing as well as having
And I was
the
listening.
district sign.
Again, being retired, I can sit there and listen to these, they record everything, and or they have them live, and I was listening to the testimony when they were presenting these, and because that's a little different than the tax cap, but there wasn't anybody that got up that said that they didn't support that letter. You know, and actually there was some very well-spoken municipal and school board chairs that did it.
Yeah, as to the format of this, I'm not sure that's quite as important as just seeing Newmarket on there.
Yeah.
Right.
I'm happy to go whichever way folks feel most enthusiastic about. And as a board, we're all elected to have a point of view on things like this. So, I don't personally, I guess, feel a need to do a tremendous amount of community outreach. If we feel like this is something as a board we want to sign on to, that's what we're here for.
Interestingly, Derry has town council in there as well.
Well,
A few towns like that I noticed, yeah.
Derry's a city or a town?
Town.
They have school board
Okay.
members and they have town council.
Okay. I mean, I don't think they're restricting this just to the school organizations
But
at
perhaps
all.
we want to forward
So,
it to the...
Yeah, I'd be happy to send this to the council as well for them to look at and think about, but just narrowly in terms of what we'd like to do, yeah, I also support signing on to it. I think it's the message that we want to send, regardless of whether that message is listened to
Right.
or not.
Yeah, without a doubt.
Yeah, so if everybody generally is supportive of this, my only other question then is does everybody want to sign on as individual board members? I can do it, whichever the way the board wants to go.
I feel like it's more powerful to have
Multiple.
well, everybody do it if they want to do it, but
Yeah.
yeah.
I feel motivated to want to sign it.
Okay.
You know,
Yeah,
I mean,
I mean,
It's,
is there anyone who does not want their name on this? Maybe is the way to ask the
I will
question.
definitely put mine on it.
Okay. I'll respond then to the board member from Dover and let them know that we're, enthusiastic to sign on and give them everyone's name and as members of the board.
And if I could just, a related issue, and it kind of ties into something Kathy said about one of the things with the tax cap bill is they're talking about making it part of the overall budget, which is called an omnibus package.
Yeah.
Which what that will do is it will arrive on the governor's desk and the governor will have to say, I accept the whole budget or no, based upon the issue. And clearly that is going to tie her hands more so. So it might be worth a more specific letter that goes to the governor's office specific to the tax cap and the feelings of the Newmarket community school district. Just because I think she's going to have, it looks like the bill it's come out of the House.
House Finance.
And it looks very
Yeah,
promising that the
it's
Senate's gonna go
just with the
along.
way the numbers are in the House. It's going to be a party vote, and the Republicans have the majority, so it's come out of committee on a partisan vote. It'll go to the House Finance, the whole House next Thursday, April 10th. And if anybody's interested in listening up, they have a YouTube channel, and you can listen live, or you can go back and listen to it afterwards. And so I would presume that it'll pass. It'll go to the Senate and probably pass. But Ken Weiler said, and he's pretty straightforward. And when you're talking about listening, he's the chair. So.
Is this the gentleman who stood and said, everybody stop talking to us about school funding?
Exactly.
Okay.
And it was right after, again, I would go back to Franklin, right after Liz Cody, the Franklin School Board Chair, had gotten up and testified, and just before another former rep from Merrimack Valley, Pennacook, had gotten up, and almost right after that, he said, and then he repeated it again about an hour later. Because that's how many people.
At least there was an hour.
Because that's how many people were at the hearing.
Yes. All right. Anything further on the school funding topic? I will, in terms of a separate letter to the governor about this, let's.
Upon that conversation.
My suggestion would be, let's see how this bill advances. Not just because it's more information to bring to bear, but also, sometimes there's something to be said for hitting somebody twice over the course of a longer period of time.
Right. Yep.
And there might be other things that we might want to add to it as the session, as the session goes through and the Senate gets the bills, I think.
Our next meeting will probably be in between the House and the Senate votes, I would imagine.
So it'll go to the Senate, and within a few weeks, we'll know what's there, so
I think
next
they're gonna
meeting,
be.
we'll have a better sense.
I think it'll be about May. I think it'll be in May when the final budget is sent to the governor.
Okay, thank you.
When we sign this letter, it may not hurt to mention that we're considering an additional letter.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, everybody's had a week to contemplate the school board retreat. Does the 19th still work for everybody?
Good here.
Yep.
I'm good as well, so we will, Todd, if your team would plan that for the morning of the 19th.
And it will be right here.
Right here in the library.
Right here in the
Good.
All right, do we have any donations to acknowledge this week?
I do not believe so.
Okay. Moving on then to action items. I'd look for a motion to approve the minutes from the March 27th school board meeting.
So moved.
Gary, thank you.
I'll second.
Thank you, Kathy. Did anybody note anything reading through them that needs editing, correction, addition, subtraction?
I just have to say I was in disbelief at how quick that meeting was.
Yep, well, thank you, that's,
I appreciated all the students that were here for civics.
Yes, but were those, were they here to observe, or were they here to get recognized, or?
they were here for civics class, so to observe, yes, although perhaps not completely of their own free will, what I say, but no, they did.
You don't see them here now, do you?
I was gonna say, where's,
Well, they're watching at home tonight.
Obviously, yeah.
they could have done it virtually, right, and gotten credit?
I did hear one student say that they, appreciated some of the lengthy explanations, but that student was also asking me for money to go out for something. So
Yeah.
it could be all, ulterior motivations there.
Nice job, Dad.
All those in favor of approving the minutes of the March 27th meeting, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? We're unanimous.
I'll give a shout out to Ellen. She can put it in these meeting minutes. I just appreciate her. Thorough but concise and easy to read.
Next up, we have a personnel request for time off.
Basically, I hope to change this in para negotiations. But in the para contract, if a para asks for a day off without pay, it requires me to bring it to the board. And I think it's silly, but every time I do it, you guys look at me like, why are you bringing this to me? And I'm telling you why. So there are 2 paras who have asked for unpaid time off. I would like to grant it to them. It's not a hardship to anybody, and I would just ask for you guys to approve it.
All right, I would accept a motion to approve the personnel request for time off.
Motion to approve.
Thank you, Jeff.
Second.
Go ahead, Lonnie. No?
Oh, darn it, I need to actually have a GE and a GA on my sheet now, don't I? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? We're unanimous. Approve certified staff nominations. So these, again, are to approve the employment. It's the red folder, right?
No, actually, these are
Okay.
these are just for you to sign.
Okay,
Those are
all
the
right.
administrative
Thank you.
contracts you approved last time.
Yep.
The list of certified staff is in the packet here if you want to
Yep.
open it. Just a quick, just a review. Every year, all certified staff have to be issued a contract or notified that they're not going to be given a contract by April 15th. Every year, the list comes before you. Basically, what you have in front of you is all the teachers that we are recommending for renewal with where they fit on the various scales. And you'll also note at the end, there are 5 names on there that are what are professional staff, but they're not in the teacher group, but I'd like to present those to you for your approval. So there are 5 people that are in the professional category, but that are not in the teachers union.
All right. So I'll offer everybody the option, if there's anything that anybody wants to discuss pertaining to individuals, then we would need to do that in a non-public meeting, because obviously it would impact individuals, which is, so does anybody have a desire to discuss any one or subset of the particular nominations? All right, hearing none, I would accept a motion to approve all of the certified staff nominations as presented to us.
So moved.
Second.
All right, so Lonnie and Gary.
It's GA.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? We are unanimous. Thank you to the professional staff for all that you do, and we're happy to have you all back for another year. Except, I got way ahead of myself there. So we do have, unfortunately, some staff resignations that the board is being asked to accept. Todd, if you want.
Again, every year, there's an ebb and flow to staffing. There are for the 109 you just approved, there are people who are moving on to different roles and tasks, some to choose different career directions, but in fact, I looked back last year, we had 3 resignations at this time last year too. So there are 3 resignations in front of you. It really is less about approving and more just accepting them, because we can't make someone work for us if they choose to not.
Sad but true. So accept a motion to approve the staff resignations.
I so move.
Thank you, Kathy. Second.
Second.
Thank you, Gary. Any discussion? I mean, I would just
Thank
say,
you for your time in
Yeah.
Newmarket, and good luck.
yeah, appreciate, again, all of the work over the years from these 3 individuals. You'll be missed.
One of them seems more under duress than the others. I'm just curious, I guess, about that. Do we know anything about the shape? Maybe that's something that we talk about later?
I wouldn't want to get into a discussion.
Yeah, no, that's fine.
Motivations.
Yeah, okay.
Okay.
I'm happy to, we can do it non-public.
Sure.
We can talk about it.
Sure.
All right, so would you like to do that in non-public, or do you?
If someone's intent is to resign, I don't intend to stand in their way. I'd like to learn a little bit more also.
Okay.
He can also speak to Todd independently if the rest of us don't.
Yeah,
That's true.
Yeah.
All right, I mean, does the rest of the board have an interest in doing a non-public to understand more about this, or is it all right if Jeff just talks
I
to
don't,
Todd?
but
It's fine.
All right, very good then. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, resignations are accepted with some regret.
Yes.
So at this point, we have no need for a non-public meeting then. I would accept a motion to adjourn.
so
Thank you, Gary.
Did we approve the last day of school?
Oh,
Or
we
just-
did not.
The June 13th. Yep.
I'm sorry, what is going on?
the last day of school.
The last day was approved the.
Oh, okay, sorry, the copy I have, okay, that wasn't on there, so. All right, I'd accept a motion to approve setting the last day of school to June the 13th.
So moved.
Thank you, Jeff.
Second.
Second from Gary, thank you. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right, thank you. We are
My kids will be very
unanimous.
excited.
I've listened to so many legislative meetings, I keep hearing the nays come, you know.
We're a very agreeable group here.
Yes.
All right. Motion to adjourn then. Do I have a motion from Gary? Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Kathy. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? We are adjourned.